Patriots, if you thought that it was a bad idea for the United States to send 100,000 troops at a time to Afghanistan, and it was a terrible idea, but if you thought that was a bad idea, just wait until Joe Biden invites 100,000 Afghanis to come to the United States, because, Jen, I think that is going to be the next massive failure of the Biden administration.
I think you're absolutely right, Steve. I think if Americans didn't think our borders were open before, it seems like they certainly are now.
So Afghanistan has been a two-decade nightmare for America. And if Joe Biden has his way, he may be inviting that nightmare right here via thousands and thousands of inadequately vetted Afghani migrants. Just how costly in lives has the Afghan war been on the whole? For a closer look at that, let's look at a Chalk Talk. These are the various costs of Afghanistan, of our two-decade-long engagement there. The most brutal, of course, being the loss of precious American lives. 2,312 military members killed in Afghanistan. But also the spending, the amount of treasure that we expended, over $1 trillion. The reason there, Patriots, that I don't give you an exact figure is because so much of it is classified. It's hard to get an exact figure. But also, we're not done spending there, even once we're completely out, because the future liabilities, particularly for those soldiers who are grievously wounded, whether mentally or physically, are at least $1 trillion of future liabilities as well. Let's look at the number of troops deployed. The total number of troops who were sent there, I mentioned, at peak strength, over 100,000 at one time. In total, 775,000 Americans have served in Afghanistan. That is larger than the population of Washington, D.C. It's larger than the population of Seattle, Washington. I think it's a staggering figure. And one more staggering figure, unfortunately, the U.S. Embassy, which has gotten a lot of attention right now. It cost us $700 million to build that one U.S. embassy. And in all likelihood, in the coming days, let's face it, the Taliban, they're probably going to be taking selfies inside of that $700 million embassy that you paid for. Now, looking back at the history, George W. Bush, I don't say much nice about him, but he was right, of course, initially to invade and to crush the Afghanistan regime that protected and enabled bin Laden. But once that task was completed, a quick exit would have saved America incredible heartache and expenditure. Instead, we languished there for years, trying desperately to nation build a land that isn't even really a nation. Eventually, it became clear that the point of the Afghan war was the war. It was the war itself. The foreign policy establishment of Washington aligned in pursuit of turning a tribal and brutal land of repression into some mid-aged version of 1776 America. No chance. Those ruling class elites, they benefited massively, but everyday Americans paid the price. Middle and lower class kids from rural America and Hispanics with names like Gomez from the Bronx were sent to this faraway land on a dangerous and fanciful mission. And when they came home in coffins, the ruling class did not hesitate to dive deeper into the delusion. Once we successfully targeted and killed bin Laden, it was clear that our continued mission in Afghanistan was futile. But we remained, unfortunately. Now, our amazing troops persevered, and they did the best they could with the awful hand that they were dealt. Then Vice President Joe Biden and Barack Obama presided over this epic failure, as later detailed in the Afghanistan Papers, which is a rare work of profound journalism from the Washington Post. Credit where it's due. That detailed the full hidden awareness of the Bush and Obama administrations of the consistent failures in Afghanistan, failures that were hidden, systemically hidden from the American people. Now, that report, which was classified until the Washington Post sued to reveal those details, it found that in 2016, an unidentified senior Obama-Biden NSC official said, quote, "It was impossible to create good metrics. We tried using troop numbers trained, violence levels, control of territory, and none of it painted an accurate picture. The metrics were always manipulated for the duration of the war." For the duration of the war. As I mentioned, the war itself became the goal. Similarly, Colonel Bob Crowley, senior counterinsurgency advisor, observed in the Afghanistan Papers that, quote, "every data point was altered to present the best possible picture. Surveys, for instance, were totally unreliable, but reinforced that everything we were doing was right and became a self-licking ice cream cone." Now, Donald Trump he reversed all of this, and he lived up to his campaign promises, very unusual for a politician, and he wound down this seemingly endless war. He believed in a policy of realism and restraint, America first. He negotiated the exit from Afghanistan, as well as the historic Abraham Accords between Israel and its Arab neighbors, proving that peace is possible without gigantic U.S. military commitments. But Biden, he took this solid hand that he was dealt, that he inherited, and he made a total mess of it, and quickly. Now, the only thing now that could make this dire situation even worse, taking in tens or even hundreds of thousands of new migrants from Afghanistan. This weekend, Defense Department spokesman John Kirby said, quote, "Once we get more airlift out of Kabul, we're going to put as many people on those planes as we can. There will be a mix, not just American citizens, but perhaps some Afghan SIV applicants as well. It's not going to just be Americans first." Now, SIVs are special immigrant visas. Do some brave Afghanis deserve evacuation with the help of the United States? Of course. Should they all come to America? Hell no. Where are the regional partners? Where are the wealthy Gulf nations? Where are Israel and India? These are all countries that benefit massively from U.S. protection, U.S. aid, and American trade. And these are countries in the neighborhood, so to speak, of Afghanistan. The very last thing that America needs right now is a swarm of migrants from a battle-torn wasteland. But knowing Biden and his political class pals, that's exactly the sort of stunt that they are prepared to pull off, even as their shameful two-decade experiment in Afghanistan finally ends in infamy.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.